News with Mitsumi Takahashi.
Good evening. There are calls for smaller street sweepers. This comes after a pedestrian was struck and killed by a sweeper. It happened yesterday morning in Boucherville. Matt Gilmore reports.
It was an accident many are finding hard to understand. A woman in her 70s hit and killed by a street sweeper shortly before noon yesterday. Police are sharing few details, but believe it was an accident.
Of course, each time that we see that kind of news, we're shocked.
But for the pedestrian advocacy group Piétons Québec, it was still preventable.
We know how to act to prevent those deaths, so we need to accelerate our intervention to prevent that kind of death.
Sandrine Cabana-Degani says the type of vehicle involved in the accident was large, heavy, and has lots of blind spots.
We know how to design vehicle to be safer. There's also all sorts of safety equipment that can help drivers to see better.
Andre Durocher with the CAA Foundation for Road Safety says safer street sweepers already exist.
Newer versions, smaller type of vehicles like that will have windows that will go lower, and also the blind spots there are fewer.
A day after the accident, Iberville Street has reopened to traffic. This is a relatively quiet residential street, and people we spoke to off camera say they're shocked by what's happened. Residents say there are quite a few elderly people who live and walk in the area. There's a sidewalk on one side of the road, but not the other side where the woman was hit. Another major concern for Piétons Québec.
It's really important to have streets that have infrastructure for pedestrian and sidewalk on both sides.
Durocher says those types of changes can't happen overnight, but should be the ultimate goal.
These incidents, as sad as they may be, are a good occasion to have a reminder: the bigger the vehicle, the more we should be aware of. Make sure that they have seen us, because otherwise it could lead to some tragic incidents.
Longueuil police say the incident is still under investigation. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
People in Rigaud are keeping a close watch on the level of the Ottawa River. It's still rising. The hope, though, is that the water levels might have peaked. Here's Denise Roberts.
For Carole Gilbert, going home involves putting on a pair of hip waders. We live on an island, she says. Our house is surrounded by water. As the banks of the Ottawa River have overflowed, flooding streets and surrounding homes, residents of Rigaud are doing what they can to keep their homes dry. At the fire station, Joshua Bessner and his partner are filling up on sandbags.
It's not looking bad for us right now, but if it gets worse, we'll be ready.
The couple says this is their first experience as homeowners dealing with the spring thaw.
It's a bit nerve-wracking, but you just gotta make sure you're keeping up to date, like using your resources available.
While several streets in Rigaud have been submerged, there have been no evacuations. Officials say residents can stay in their homes as long as they feel it is safe to do so. And officials are going around regularly to do checks of the area. The SQ is also helping, visiting the affected areas by foot. Water levels were over 24 meters high today and may have peaked, according to Mayor Charles Mounier.
The water level is quite stable. We almost reach a peak, which can stay there for maybe 1 to 3 days, or maybe less.
He says after the major floods of 2017 and 2019, the city has been more proactive and prepared.
We do a lot of work to try to give to citizens the best, most accurate information as possible, so they can know what's going on, what will go on.
Especially since this won't be the last time they'll have to deal with flooding. Residents like Gilbert have learned to live with the rising water levels. We made a choice to live here, she says, and we've decided to stay here because we love it. If all goes well, the water around her home should start to recede in a few days. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
And here in Montreal, the current level of flooding is being called manageable. The mayors of Montreal and Pierrefonds-Roxborough Borough were at the riverside this morning. They're monitoring a temporary dike as well as the permanent one that was installed over the past few years. And while things are under control right now, they are worried about a second wave of flooding. That usually happens in May.
There's different waves in terms of flooding. Right now we're in the first wave. The second wave is beginning of May. Temperature rise, water goes into the river, and then the levels of the rivers rises, and then it comes to us, downstream to us. So we'll see what's going to happen beginning of May. Right now it's too early to say that we will need, we're reopening the bridge, so we'll see if we have to close the other ones, like the Senville one. We thought we had to close it last night, we didn't. Right now it's something that we're monitoring every day, but it's not over yet.
And officials also say the bridge to Ile Mercier might not reopen to cars until sometime next month. A Quebec City man is facing terrorism-related offenses. 26-year-old Jeffrey Roussel faces several charges, including taking part in a terrorist group and facilitating terrorist activity. He's accused of using social media to promote a terrorist group that encourages youth to commit acts of violence. The group is known as the 764 Network.
This group is a nihilistic, violent, extremist group that promotes criminal and violent activities. So they go online to basically lure in, groom young individuals, basically teenagers or even children on online gaming platforms. And they end up grooming them, or they manipulate them and into doing some violent acts later on.
Last December, Canada became the first country to list the 764 Network as a terrorist entity. The RCMP says the network actively targets children and teenagers on social media platforms such as Discord, Minecraft, and Telegram. The directors of a non-profit organization have been arrested, and she is facing fraud charges. Melanie Payette is accused of using her organization's credit card for personal purchases. Payette was convicted last year for a similar fraud at another non-profit in Joliette. Premier Christine Fréchette has lost her first M&A. There are reports that Gilles Bélanger will be leaving the CAQ caucus to sit as an independent. He was not included in Fréchette's new cabinet that was unveiled yesterday. Now, Bélanger was the minister responsible for cybersecurity, and he had raised security concerns over Santé Québec's plans to digitize the medical records, suggesting the platform might not be ready. Meanwhile, Santé Québec is beginning to test its digital platform. The rollout is supposed to begin soon in 2 areas of the province. One of them is in Montreal North. Angela McKenzie has more on that.
Starting May 9th, Santé Québec plans to roll out its new digital health record platform called the DNS with 2 pilot projects. One is in the Morrissey and the other in Montreal North, and includes Sacré-Cœur, Fleury and Jean Talon hospitals. The DNS replaces paper files, forms and faxes and combines everything into one digital platform. The idea is for patients' health information to be available all in one place, including test results, medications and appointments. It's also supposed to make things easier for healthcare providers. Santé Québec says there are many measures in place to mitigate security risks and to ensure data is protected. But there will be a period of transition where some services will be reduced for a 4-week period.
Tous les services vont être accessibles. Ce qu'on est venu moduler, c'est les activités électives, alors des activités qui sont planifiées à l'avance, pour lesquelles on est venu moduler pendant la période critique.
The transition period will primarily affect elective surgeries and procedures. The head of the Regional Health Board for North Montreal adds there won't be cancellations in other areas and no beds will be closed. Since the botched rollout of Quebec's Auto Insurance Board's digital platform SAC-Click, there have been concerns similar problems could happen with health records. Some physicians have gone public with their concerns, citing lack of training and potential delays in emergency rooms as staff get used to the new system. But Santé Québec insists it's ready. Health Minister Sonia Bélanger says she's monitoring the situation closely and says the rollout will only proceed when she's been assured all necessary measures are in place. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Air Transat says it's cutting hundreds of its flights. Air Canada and WestJet are also cutting back. The airlines are blaming the oil markets and jet fuel costs, along with the global shortage. Here's Geneviève Beauchemin.
At the airport, the excitement of travel is dimmed by worries over flight plans.
Well, we booked our trip a long time ago, and so thankfully we got a very good discount. And now if I was traveling, I think I would probably wait till after summer and see if things calm down and see what happens with the world.
Transat is canceling hundreds of flights, pointing to soaring jet fuel prices and a looming shortage in Europe. It says the changes represent a 6% reduction in capacity, affecting routes in Europe and the Caribbean. The suspension of service to Cuba is extended until October.
I'm just crossing my fingers.
Rebecca O'Sullivan booked a dream European vacation with Transat months ago for her 40th wedding anniversary.
So it's just, I'm in a state of limbo, and I'm sure so many people are in a state of limbo, you know, and there's nothing we can do.
Air Canada and WestJet have also trimmed capacity, while Lufthansa has cut 20,000 short-haul flights. United Airlines said today its prices may have to rise by 20%.
This is the biggest crisis the airline industry has had, bar none.
In Canada, airlines need to rebook passengers on cancelled or delayed flights on the next available one, departing within 48 hours. But that may not be a solution.
If there's no flight to go within 48 hours, what do you do? So refunds are the only thing in town. So there's a bunch of rules that are going to have to be looked at again.
And insurance may not cover other costs, classifying this crisis as an act of war.
Refunding my flight does nothing for me because I still have to pay, you know, quite a bit of money for my tour. So refunding me, I don't want a refund from the airline. I want to get there.
And as airlines pass on some of the expense to travelers, some say they'll just have to stay closer to home. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
There was a near miss at New York's JFK Airport on Monday. It involved an Air Canada plane, and it was very similar to the fatal crash of the Air Canada plane exactly a month ago at LaGuardia.
Hey, Brickyard, you have traffic off your right side immediately. It's safe at 2,000 feet, sir. It's all above you now.
We're correcting. Brickyard 4464.
The Federal Aviation Administration says that on Monday, an American Airlines regional jet missed its approach path and flew too close to an Air Canada plane that had just been cleared to land. An investigation is underway. Premier Christine Fréchette was at Montreal City Hall today. She was visiting with the mayor, and they discussed a number of issues. And Matt, homelessness is an important topic to both of them.
Yeah, exactly, Mitsumi. And we know that when it comes to homelessness, it's one of the top priorities for the city of Montreal. So that certainly came up during discussions. And naturally as well, they talked about housing. So that's really two key issues that were discussed between the premier and the mayor. Christine Fréchette showed up to City Hall this afternoon wearing a Montreal Canadiens jersey. Of course, the Habs are in the midst of a playoff run. Fréchette said the mayor is her friend and that both leaders have a lot of ambition for the city. Some other key topics that came up during their meeting: infrastructure, making sure that there are investments to maintain infrastructure. They also both talked about wanting to develop the east end of Montreal. And the mayor, Soraya Martinez-Ferrada, says the premier has a refreshing take on Quebec's economy.
Too long, the conversation has been polarized between Montreal and the regions. The conflict and the economic conflict, it's not in the province. It's outside, and we need to stick together and work together to be a leverage to each other. And I want to salute that that conversation is refreshing in terms of how do we address the whole economy in the province of Quebec.
Homelessness, for example, was a topic that we discussed because we need to work closer together. And I talked yesterday about the partnership we need to have as a government and closer collaboration we need to establish. And I think that homelessness is one of the topics we should put forward in order to get results in the short term.
The city and the province also want to be closely aligned when it comes to public transport, and specifically to be able to get more funding from Ottawa on those projects and on that topic. And the Premier says she wants results very quickly on these issues. So Quebec and Montreal will certainly be working closely together in the months ahead. Mitsumi?
Thanks very much, Matt. And that's Matt Grillo in Old Montreal. Today is Earth Day. One Montreal man is taking matters into his own hands. Here's Sweeta Rassi.
Always at the Martin around.
When it comes to picking up trash in Montreal, Jimmy Vigneault says there's no shortage of coffee cups and cigarette butts.
I think I collect like 500 coffee cups in the last days.
So on Earth Day, Vigneault is on a mission, picking up as much garbage as he can alongside his father. They're combing through some areas in Montreal North. It's part of Vigneault's week-long journey, walking around the island of Montreal, spending nights at hotels before heading back out again in the morning with a new garbage bag. He started on Saturday in the Old Ports and plans to finish the 140-kilometer trek in the next couple days.
With the climate change and all that stuff and the plastic pollution in the ocean, we need to take more action and to take care of our planet.
He hopes this will inspire people to go out and do their parts to help take care of the planet.
That will make a difference if everybody do that.
Vigneault is the founder of 1,000 Ton Mission, the nonprofit group dedicated to collecting garbage before it reaches the water, bringing it to nearby public dumpsters and recycling bins. In 8 years, they've collected 750 tons of waste, mostly from across Quebec.
In the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we will live with the impact of the climate change.
And as the snow has melted in Montreal, what was once underneath is now hard to ignore.
I think we need to keep the environment as a priority.
Doing his part for the environment, one piece of garbage at a time. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Meanwhile, an online store is trying to make a point by selling absolutely nothing. The site is run by Earth Day Canada. It's called Imaginaire, and it makes fun of fast fashion websites. The team says about 3/4 of Canadians buy fast fashion, even though they know the environmental cost.
Over the last 20 years, textile production has doubled. The planet has not doubled in population, but the production has doubled. It is very impactful, very polluting, very damaging for greenhouse gases, a lot of travel around, moving all these goods around the world. And certainly there's a lot of pesticides involved in cotton growth, and we're polluting our rivers. So if we don't have to buy these clothes because we should be buying things that we keep for longer, we're going to generate a lot less impacts on the environment.
And coming up, it is a smoking ban for life.
It is, in fact, the biggest public health intervention in a generation, and I can assure all noble lords it will save lives.
It is a plan to keep everyone under 17 from smoking ever. And a celebration of Israel's independence and a protest in downtown Montreal. Members of Montreal's Jewish community were gathered downtown today to celebrate Israel's independence. And as with many other similar gatherings over the past few years, there was an opposing crowd right across the street. Olivia O'Malley reports.
Place du Canada was filled with blue and white flags for most of the day. Hundreds of Jewish Montrealers gathered in the downtown park to celebrate Israel's Independence Day.
Israel is 78 years and still going strong.
It is not religious and not political, it is just celebration.
Many here say they don't want to get political because it's technically a birthday, but Israel is a participant in the ongoing war in the Middle East.
I don't celebrate the loss of life, but I celebrate what Israel is doing to protect their people.
David Eagle traveled from New Jersey to take part in the rally.
I think you can still celebrate all the good that it stands for, the democracy, the freedom for people. So while you don't necessarily have to agree, I think it is great to stand for their values and for defending the people.
There was a heavy police presence at the rally. On the other side of René Lévesque, pro-Palestinian supporters gathered in protest.
So it is outrageous. I don't understand how somebody in Canada or in any part of the world in 2026 can still support the so-called Israeli state.
Members of Jews United Against Zionism were present. This rabbi says he is opposed to the Jewish state.
It's nothing to do with the will of the Almighty. We are forbidden to kill or steal, occupy.
Things between the two sides remained peaceful, and there was no reported violence. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News.
It is a war of words today between Canada and the United States. The Americans say Canada has certain trade irritants. The Prime Minister says, quote, "We have some on our side as well." Mike Lucature reports.
They just treat us unfairly at every margin they possibly can.
The U.S. Commerce Secretary describing the trading relationship with Canada to fellow American lawmakers. And Howard Lutnick once again brought up a key gripe.
It is outrageous that Canada will not put U.S. spirits on the shelf. It is insulting.
Prime Minister Mark Carney pushed back on any suggestion that Canada has to make concessions to get back to the negotiating table.
It's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have the negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time.
A prudent strategy, according to this trade lawyer.
I think where Canada is drawing a line right now is this idea that we're going to give away the house before we even sit down to negotiate. And that puts negotiators in a very difficult situation.
The U.S. has already outlined other irritants, including limited American access to the Canadian dairy market and the Online Streaming Act, which brings American platforms under Canadian broadcast rules.
We've made some counter proposals, which they're aware, and the time will come to really roll up our sleeves.
At the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer said the bigger issue is that the two countries have opposing philosophies on trade.
They're doubling down on globalization when we're trying to correct for the problems of globalization. So those are two models that don't fit together very well.
But part of the reason that Canada is looking for other trading partners is because of the trade war launched by the U.S. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
In the UK, a law that bans children aged 17 and under from buying cigarettes ever.
It is a landmark bill, my lords. It will create a smoke-free generation. It is, in fact, the biggest public health intervention in a generation, and I can assure all noble lords it will save lives.
The tobacco and vaping bill will stop anyone born after 2008 from smoking legally. It is one of the toughest anti-smoking measures in the world. The law also gives the government the power to ban smoking in outdoor spaces such as playgrounds and outside schools and hospitals. The Canadian Cancer Society says it wants similar legislation in this country.
We would like to see it. We already, in fact, have consultation documents and consideration by Prince Edward Island and by Newfoundland and Labrador. PEI already has minimum age 21 instead of the 19 or 18 that we see in other provinces. Age 21 across the country in every province and territory could be a very good initial step. But yes, this is something we could see in Canada.
Smoking is one of the leading causes of preventable death in the UK and many other parts of the world. And coming up, where are all the people going?
BC as a province lost 41,000 people.
For the first time in generations, the population of BC is shrinking. And the splashdown of the Orion capsule was a big surprise for a small company in Ontario. The markets did well last year, and that means a lot of people with investments are looking at some large tax bills. So what can we do to be more tax efficient next year? Patty Lovett-Reed is a financial expert with Home Equity Bank. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Masumi. Can I just say off the top, the irony of this conversation is not lost on me. I literally just paid my taxes. So I'm thinking this way.
Ouch.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah. Okay, so it's safe to say then, not much we can do for this tax year, but what can we learn from this year's tax bill? What should we be looking out for now?
Well, the conversation that we just had in our household is that, when you think about ways that you want to make money, you can earn more, you can save more, you can get better returns on your investment, which is great. But the missing link for a lot of people is being tax efficient. So when you're filing your taxes and you're looking at, do I owe money? I think the question you have to ask yourself, am I using all of the tax advantages that the government offers? And there are plans like tax-free savings accounts, RSP. If you're a first-time home buyer, you really have to think about not only the plans, but the investments that you put in them, because not all investment income is going to be taxed equally.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to the planning?
I don't think they think about making income. They don't necessarily think about tax efficiency. So to give you an example, if you've been in the stock market and you just made reference to the fact that the stock markets have done very well in the past year, they're not doing badly so far at the start of this year anyway. You have to say to yourself, am I making capital gains here? And if so, do I have the gains in a tax advantage plan, where in a tax-free savings account, they grow tax-free, in an RSP, the gains are tax deferred. You ultimately have to pay tax when you take the money out. But you've got to think about it in a 1, 2, and I would even say 3-step process. I want to make money. Am I being tax efficient? And always think in after-tax dollars, because that's the money you actually get to spend at the end of the day.
So what tax shelters should we be looking at?
Well, I think when you look at the 3 shelters that I just talked about, I think it's the type of income that you generate. You're being taxed when you get interest income at your highest marginal tax rate. So that's the least efficient from a tax perspective. If you're in the stock market, you may want to consider, keeping those in non-registered plans, because 50% of the capital gain you're not going to be paying on. And then, of course, when you get dividends, you do get preferential tax treatment. So I'm not suggesting you put all or nothing, one or the other, because you want all of these plans to grow, but you definitely want to be strategic. Also, when it comes to taxes, Mitsumi, think about the fact, are you buying and selling on a regular basis, triggering a capital gains? It's going to cost you money every time you do it. The good news is you're making money. Do you have tax loss selling? Did you have some dogs in your portfolio, if you're really honest with yourself? And you can take that loss and offset it against gains going back 3 years if you did have to pay in the past, or carry it forward indefinitely.
And very quickly, because we're running out of time here, but I'd like to know, what do you think, looking ahead into this year, what can we expect from the markets this year? Are there any particular sectors we should keep an eye on? What about interest rates? How do all these things come into play?
Yeah, I do think people are thinking that way. I think there is uncertainty. Let's say we have a mediocre year, 6 to 8% in the stock market. Many are saying energy, given the geopolitical issues we're dealing with, is still a good place to be. Financials. But people have also moved into what we call defensive, healthcare, utilities. I'm just going to back up and say, you know what? Be diversified. Have a reasonable time horizon, and make sure that you continue to rebalance asset allocation, how much you have in cash, in bonds, in stocks. That's what it's really going to come down to. You don't want all of your eggs in one basket.
Good advice as always, Patty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mitsumi.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, Mother Nature certainly delivered a pleasant day for Earth Day, and we managed to see some sunshine. Our temperatures are starting to look up. Today's daytime high was 15 degrees. That's 2 degrees above our seasonal 13, but this is where we really notice it. Our usual overnight low this time of year is 2 degrees. We actually saw 6 degrees overnight last night, and we are actually going to hold on to some of the warmth from today overnight. So we'll get to that in one moment. Let's put our futurecast into motion now. So we are seeing a few clouds at this time, and Environment and Climate Change Canada is saying that there is a 30% chance of a few showers On our screen here, we can see that around 10 p.m. there are some spotty showers in the vicinity. It looks like we'll be sticking around until about midnight. That system pushes eastwards. And once again, this is not a major rainfall that we're looking at. So it could be 1 to 2 millimeters. So nothing to worry about there. Into our early morning hours, we see some clearing, and that sets the tone for our Thursday. We were looking at mostly sunny skies. That'll carry through throughout the day and into the evening. A few clouds return just around sunset, but then we see clearing yet again because Friday is also looking picture perfect. So the next few days are going to be quite enjoyable, and I encourage everybody to get out and enjoy it. 5 degrees is our overnight low. Once again, holding on to those milder temperatures, that 30% chance of some showers later this evening. We're dealing with northwesterly winds. They're fairly calm at 15. They could pick up tomorrow into the afternoon. We are looking at a daytime high of 13 degrees. Once again, mostly sunny skies. Here's our longer range forecast, and this is what we call in the business a jackpot forecast, with the exception of Tuesday, but we will take it. So mostly sunny skies for both Thursday and Friday, holding on to 13 degrees there. We start to see the mercury climb on Saturday, 14, calling for a mix of sun and clouds. 17 on Sunday, we'll see peaks of sunshine there as well. And on Monday, we are hovering so close to 20 degrees, we're calling for 19 and a mix of sun and clouds. 7 millimeters of rain on Tuesday with a high of 17. And next Wednesday, 14 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. And now a lotto reminder for you. On tonight's Lotto 649 draw, you could win $32 million. Good luck.
For the first time since the 1800s, the population in British Columbia's province is shrinking. Craig Krause looks at why.
A population once booming, now shrinking. New data shows British Columbia's population took a sharp hit last year.
BC as a province lost 41,000 people.
A drop not seen since the mid-1800s. Fast forward to now, and a sudden pullback in immigration is the reason.
What changed was that we saw a big outflow of non-permanent residents.
Berlin says BC accounted for nearly 40% of the country's total population loss last year, a dramatic shift after years of record growth nationwide.
We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
A major change in tone back in 2024 when the former Prime Minister acknowledged his government made mistakes before leaving office months later. Those targets still stand, with Ottawa aiming to cut temporary residents to below 5% of the population by 2027.
Well, we've had over 500,000 people come to British Columbia since 2020. And so we finally have some room to breathe.
BC Jobs and Economic Growth Minister Ravi Kahlon says the shift could ease pressure on healthcare, education, and housing and help cool prices. But he says Ottawa and Victoria need to be aligned.
We're not going to be able to continue to function as a province without some form of immigration, but it's critically important that it aligns with the social infrastructure that we have in our communities.
But for some, the impact is already being felt. Some Vancouverites say they're unsure about their future in the city and in the province.
Actually, I've considered moving to Saskatchewan.
It feels like instead of living, I'm surviving, actually.
I never thought of leaving it, though. Never thought of leaving BC.
You just love it?
I love it here. Yeah, it's home to me.
Despite overall decline, BC still saw around 3,000 people move to the province interprovincially and through migration last year. Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
And coming up, he just wanted to say thank you.
Oh my goodness. I know it felt like my spirit could finally settle.
How the death of one man saved the lives of 3 others.
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. Your Health, brought to you by Gratianscap's second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
A Vancouver man owes his life to a stranger. He recently met the mother of the man who was his organ donor. Here's Shannon Patterson.
When Mark Hoffling was being wheeled into surgery for a life-changing liver transplant,
The sense of gratitude I was feeling was so overwhelming, it felt like I was having a hard time catching my breath sometimes.
while recovering in hospital, Hoffling learned he could write a condolence card to the donor's grieving family.
It felt like a tremendous responsibility to pour this very complex set of feelings into a single card, but I did my best. BC Transplant got it to Ben's family.
Ben Warner was a beloved son, brother, father, and registered organ donor who lost his battle with addiction at age 37.
I was having a hard time, and when that card came, it really helped me with my grieving.
A year later, with his health restored, Hoffling wrote a letter of gratitude that BC Transplant sent to the Warners.
It took me hours to get through it, to finish reading it, because of the tears. And that's when I decided that I needed to not only write back to this man, but I knew then that I needed to meet him as well.
That meeting happened in February.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Holly. It felt like my spirit could finally settle and I could point all of this gratitude that was kind of suffocating me in the right direction and, wrap my arms around Ben's family and his mother, Holly, and, the people most responsible for this miracle in my life.
There's no words that can describe it. It was just surreal. I had a piece of my son. He lives on.
Hoffling was one of 3 people whose lives were saved by Ben Warner's decision to be an organ donor.
And that's exactly what helped me through it all, was knowing that he helped other people.
I can't imagine what is more heroic than that as your final act in life.
Now close friends, Hoffling and Warner say they're proof organ donation can be healing for both the recipient and the donor's family.
Once we got over that kind of emotional hump of meeting, I felt like I was with my family, and I still do.
I see him as part of my son. He's always going to be part of the family now.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Langley.
When the Orion capsule splashed down after its trip around the world, an Ontario woman did a double take. Caitlin Wilson explains.
Houston Integrity splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
As millions watched Artemis II return to Earth, something on the screen caught Rhiannon Isles' eye.
I'm like, wait a minute, I think I saw our flare. And I went back in the PVR or whatever and rewound it to make sure and took a picture of the television because I couldn't believe it.
It wasn't part of the spacecraft itself, but something waiting for it here on Earth, a piece of the recovery effort made by HFI Pyrotechnics, a company based north of Prescott.
We're the only supplier to the U.S. Navy for these marine flares and have been since 2012. So if they were using a marine flare, it had to be ours.
A marine flare or marker, once deployed, releases smoke, helping crews track wind and ocean currents. Used in search and rescue missions, military training, and in this case, helping crews recover the astronauts during Artemis II's splashdown after a 10-day mission in space.
It was set in such a way that they were likely using it for current as well as for smoke, for the wind direction.
A small piece of a massive mission.
It was a big surprise because we didn't know anything about it, and yeah, it was very exciting.
I had goosebumps. It was a proud moment.
Each marine marker made here by hand, then sent out in the world to do an important job. For a small company, it's a big role, supplying the U.S. Navy and providing training products for the Canadian Armed Forces.
Which are really about creating simulated conditions for the battlefield. And so we make products that make a lot of noise as well as a lot of smoke. We see this as a real valuable way of helping keep Canada strong.
And after a historic trip around the moon, Isles says seeing that moment from so far away felt a lot closer to home.
Having a Canadian astronaut involved and then seeing our little marker there playing a role to bring him home safely really meant a lot to us.
Caitlin Wilson, CTV News.
Business News brought to you by Au Vieux de Louvre, where memories and meals come together.
As we heard earlier in the newscast, more flights are being cancelled because of the high cost of fuel. Morella Fernandez has more on that.
This time it's Air Transat scaling back, cutting hundreds of flights from its schedule. From May to October, flights will be reduced by 6%. That means fewer flights to Europe and the Caribbean, including Cuba. The company CEO says there is an exceptional environment affecting the entire sector. Both Air Canada and WestJet have already done the same. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar barely changed at 73.14. West Texas Intermediate up over $3 to 92.56. Western Canadian Select up over $2 to 70.78. And the TSX gained 146 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
The Canadians are back in Montreal after losing last night to the Lightning. It was an overtime goal that gave the win to Tampa Bay. The final score 3-2. Lane Hudson and Josh Anderson scored for the Habs. The series is now tied at a game apiece. Despite the loss, coach Martin Saint-Louis says there was a lot of good about last night's game.
We battled hard, you know. We competed. We controlled a lot of the game yesterday. Just lost it, but it's there. You know, I'm very confident as in how we want to play. And
Game 3 is Friday at the Bell Center. Puck drop, 7 o'clock. 50 days until the FIFA 2026 World Cup. FIFA has released a new block of last-minute tickets. Toronto is hosting 6 matches, including Canada's first home game against Bosnia, June 12th. Vancouver is hosting 7 matches, including 2 in the knockout rounds. There is a lot of concern over a group known as the 764 Network. It's listed by Canada as a terrorist entity. Now, Caroline, you'll have more about this group tonight.
Yes, so we're going to be speaking to an expert on extremist groups about how this group targets young people and what you can do to protect someone you think might be targeted by them. And we'll also speak to a Crown prosecutor in Longueuil about the sentencing of a father in the case of a baby girl that suffered a bone fracture in 2018 and how that child is doing today, 7 years after first being brought to hospital. Mitsumi?
Thanks very much, Caroline. And coming up, the letter was in the mail. What happens when you make a drawing for the king?
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
An increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
A young girl who loves to draw got a very royal surprise. Karis Mapp reports.
The happiest day due to an unexpected regal response. Grace Connell, like many 5-year-olds, loves to create art and draws inspiration from the world around her.
I just think of something what I could draw and then I draw it on a paper.
So when the royal family piqued her interest, she began her research.
I was asking Mom how I wanted to know how old they were, and then I knew, but when I went to school the next day, my friend was there, and I drew something with her.
With hopes of the picture making it overseas to King Charles himself.
It was actually a drawing of a king and queen and princess that she sent. I didn't take a picture or anything of it because I honestly didn't think we'd get anything back. So I just addressed it to Buckingham Palace and put 6 stamps on it and sent it with our home address.
Sent at the end of February, Grace would then ask her family to check the mailbox every week to see if she got a reply.
After a few weeks, I'd thought maybe I should, use ChatGPT or something to draw up a letter and mail it to her on behalf.
An idea that turned out to be unnecessary.
She had asked to check the mail one more time, which reminded me I hadn't sent the letter. We went to the mailbox with my nephew, and sure enough, there was a letter addressed from the Queen and King, their correspondence, Buckingham Palace, addressed to Grace.
The Queen and King!
I was blown away. I was like, is this legit? Is this real?
And it was real. A personalized letter from the head of royal correspondence, thanking the young girl on behalf of the royal family. According to Buckingham Palace's website, the king has shown almost all of the letters he receives and takes a keen interest in hearing from the public.
The fact that it noted her splendid drawing and that the king passed on his warmest wishes was unbelievably touching for her and for us.
Meanwhile, Grace says her favorite part has been her family's reaction.
Like being proud of me.
Kara Smap, CTV News, Kitchener.
And a nice day today, even nicer tomorrow.
That's right. A forecast fit for a king or a queen. Now, we are currently sitting at 15 degrees. We're going to hold on to this warmth that we saw today, and it's going to carry through in our overnight low. 5 degrees is what we're going to experience overnight. Typically, we'd be around 2, so that is on the warmer side. We do have a 30% chance of showers. It looks like if we do end up seeing it, it'll be around 10. By midnight, that system should pass eastwards. We start the day off with 6 degrees and mostly sunny skies, which we'll hold on to throughout the day with a high of 13, right around where we should be. Now, I want to also just pull up our longer range forecast. I can't get enough of this because the fun continues, the gorgeousness continues. On Friday, we're seeing mostly sunny skies, another day of 13 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud on Saturday, holding on to 14 there. Even our overnight lows are perking up on Saturday. 6 is our overnight on Sunday. 17 will be the high there. Once again, a mix of sun and clouds. And next Monday is looking like the nicest day of the next week. We're seeing 19 degrees, a mix of sun and clouds with an overnight low of 8. So I can't say this enough, but get out and enjoy the gorgeous weather ahead.
Finally. And that's it for us. Have a good evening. Stay well. Good night.